This is Marimbalogy, my name is Charlie, and today we have a very special review. Before we begin, I'd like to thank all my subscribers. Without you, this channel wouldn't be possible. Also, in our Marimbalogy 2.0 video, I had asked viewers to send in videos of themselves playing anything, technique, music, whatever. I've received a few already, so I am working on that video. It's going to come out pretty soon. If you would like to have your video submitted to be analyzed on the show, you can send the YouTube link, Dropbox link, or Google Drive link to marimbalogy@gmail.com. The Malletstation is a mallet MIDI controller. It was made in partnership with Pearl and Keith McMillan Instruments. If you're not sure what MIDI is, I'll include some links in the description below. On the most basic level, a MIDI controller sends information of what note you're trying to play, how loud you're playing it, and how long you're playing it for. This data is then sent to a synthesizer or a sampler to actually trigger sound. Since the Malletstation is only a MIDI controller, you'll have to plug it into your computer, phone, tablet, or external sound bank to actually produce sound. The most well-known mallet controller is called a Malletstation, and it's made by Alternate Mode. There's also another one that's been gaining a lot of popularity called a Xylosynth. I haven't played on one myself, but they look really cool. Both of these instruments cost around $2,300 for 3 octaves. The Malletstation was priced specifically to tackle that price point, coming in at a mere $1,000 for 3 octaves. But does it stack up? The Malletstation comes well packed with protective foam on all sides. It is a very attractive piece of hardware. It seems well built and it feels very solid, which is exactly what you want on an instrument you're going to be whacking with mallets. It connects to your device via the USB cable. This also powers the device as well, which is great when you're using it on the go. One of the more interesting features of the Malletstation is that it has movable bar caps. This, along with the nifty low note selector, allows you to make this a 3-octave MIDI controller starting on any natural note. So for vibes, you'd probably want to start with an F on the bottom, and for marimba, you'd probably have an A or a C. What's really neat also is that you can assign these capped notes to trigger things in your DAW, like a looper or to change samples. There are a number of assignable touch controllers and buttons. You can make these do all kinds of stuff in your DAW. By default, the 2 bottom ones are pitch bend and modulation, just like a typical MIDI keyboard, but you can change this in the Malletstation editor software. Before we connect it, let's see what it sounds like on its own. Now that we have it connected, here are some basic sound tests. I'm going to be using the really excellent Grand Marimba and Vibraphone VSTs from sonicculture.com, as well as Studio Drummer from Native Instruments. So first I thought, hey, everything sounds really good. But then I started to notice some weird stuff. For example, the Malletstation is supposed to feature mallet dampening. This uses a MIDI controller called Aftertouch. I couldn't get it to reliably dampen the notes. Sometimes it would trigger a softer note and kind of canceled out the louder note, and sometimes it wouldn't do anything at all. This is really disappointing because on a mallet instrument, you don't have control over the length of the individual notes like you would on a piano. So being able to mallet dampen really allows you to be more expressive and let certain notes ring out and mute others instead of just muting everything with a pedal all of the time. And since that doesn't work reliably, it's a bit of a letdown for using this to trigger vibraphone samples. The next thing that I noticed is that some of the pads seemed significantly louder or quieter than the other ones. Here's the MIDI data that was sent to my DAW. The vertical red line shows the note velocity. For our purposes, this really just translates into volume. As you can see, the velocities vary quite a bit, even though I hit all the notes at the same volume. I had to do a check with my MIDI keyboard to see if the results were comparable. So the MIDI keyboard was way more accurate than the Malletstation. I searched Google and the Malletstation Facebook group for answers. The only suggested answer was to go into the Malletstation editor and play with the velocity curves or the per note gain. It's a free app that you can download, or even just using your browser, and it lets you configure and assign all the buttons and touch strips on the Malletstation. This is also where you would update the firmware or reset your device to the factory settings. I tried all of the velocity curves, and the results were wildly different. So one of the things that I noticed is that when I hit all of the notes as hard as possible, most of them were not hitting 127, which should be the maximum velocity. A lot of them weren't even coming close. So I went into the editor and I set the per bar gain for every single bar so that my loudest stroke hit a 120 to 127 range. And this actually got me to reliably hit the same volume for all the notes. But when I then played softer on the Malletstation, all the notes that I had adjusted were now way too loud, and the other ones were very soft. I figure that there's one of two things going on. Either one, the sensors are just wildly inconsistent on a hardware-based level, and I don't really think that's what's happening. Or two, the software calibration is just pretty bad. When it comes down to it, if this is a hardware issue, there isn't going to be a fix. If it's a software issue, there could possibly be a firmware update where they tackle this problem and fix it. So is the Malletstation ready for prime time? Is it a serious competitor to the Mallet Cat? No. If you want to trigger basic synthesizers or very simple samplers, I guess it would be okay. But honestly, there's other pieces of hardware that are much cheaper and would do a better job of that, such as the Novation Launchpad or even a simple MIDI keyboard. But for any kind of expressive playing, it's going to be very problematic with this velocity issue. Overall, I give the Malletstation 2 out of 5 potions. In its current state, I really can't recommend it to anybody. I'll be returning mine, but I hope in the future if they figure out what's causing this issue, they could have a seriously good product because there's so many unique and innovative features on this instrument that could make it amazing. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you have any experience with the Malletstation, please leave a comment below. If you would like to support the show on Patreon, I'll put a link to that in the description, as well as a ton of other good links and information about today's episode. Alright guys, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it, and bells if you want some more of it. I'll see you next time. At its basic level, MIDI tells MIDI. Unlike a piano, a what? You know, we don't have control over the length of individual notes like a piano player. They can do that? No. Yes, they can do that.